Welcome to today's Tuesday tip. Also, isn't it wonderful to be without masks sometimes?
Yes.
Yes, yes. And so I'm sure the people on your property probably feel the same way, but we still want to be cautious. The CDC still wants us to be cautious, and we definitely don't want to repeat of what we've had. But just in case, make sure your policies are in place. Make sure that your residents know what's expected of them so that everything will go a little smoother or a little more peaceful this year. I was watching the news this morning when I was getting ready, and I was watching the airline flights, and the stewardess or this young lady that was over the stewardess said that mostly it's over wearing masks. The biggest confusion that they're having with the flights is people not wanting to wear masks or other people trying to tell people that they need to wear their mask. So let's not have any confusion. Let's let our residents know what and what is not expected of them. Have any of you had anything that you want to share about us not being able to or being able to wear masks? Anybody? Nobody. That's why we got this live thing, because y'all would respond to me. That's okay, though. That's okay. I'm a big girl. I'm going to take it. I don't know whether you watched the Tuesday tip last week or not, but it was on the fact that some of our residents have turned into the government, into the CDC, the information that they have jobs and they have businesses on your property. Have any of you experienced that? Take your mic off, Ms. Davis.
Okay. Yes. We just like we went on the site to view, we have noticed that we have maybe 4 or 5 residents who got the monies, but we never knew they had a business because at recertification times when they fill out that little questionnaire, they don't have businesses, and then they sign the affidavit of non-income. So we have residents who did receive the funding.
Yes, it was someone in Connecticut that alerted Tom and I to it, and she said that she was doing a recertification and found out that it was happening on their property. So what did you do for those residents?
Well, we haven't done anything yet. Honestly, we were waiting until your Zoom meeting because, I do realize that a loan is really, it's not what I would consider income, but it's from what they said that they had a business that allowed them to get the loan. So we're just waiting to see what exactly.
Well, this particular manager that alerted Tom and I had asked HUD, and she didn't have an answer for them. So she was going to go higher up the ladder. But we do know, as you said, that a loan is not necessarily income, even though these loans, it's not determined whether they're going to be paid back or not. But it's still, quote unquote, under the auspices of being a loan. We do know that if they have a business, this was my concern, that if they have a business and they're living on property and they put zero income or whatever have you, they should be able to show your profit and loss statement from that business. In order to have filed for the loan, so I have been told they had to have a number, a business license per se. And HUD has said in the 4350.3 that they can have incidental businesses. And it tells us what to do to prepare for it, about the parking and whatever have you. But the thing is that you want them to disclose that, and you want them to bring in all necessary documentation to support that business. Now, most businesses, small businesses, do have a loss, but you still want to see that profit and loss statement. They still should be filing some type of business taxes own that business that the government has just given them all that money for. Anybody else have any suggestions?
Vicki, we got an email a couple of days ago from someone in Mississippi, and she listed, I'll put it in the chat, but it's the Mississippi Paycheck Protection Program loans, and that's what she uses to check.
Okay.
See if tenants have received this money.
Okay, that's great. And if any of you have resources that you're checking, let us know. Sonia, I can't imagine as large as your company is, you all haven't had something.
I know in our division, because it's the elderly, but it may be in Gales, but I haven't heard anything.
Okay, all right.
I do know in DC, it's an elderly property, but we do have a gentleman that has a business. And it's like what you were saying, he has to provide his tax returns every year, and that's counted as income.
Mm-hmm.
We have had an issue with him just recently because he did receive monies from the protection, and we're still trying to decide if that's going to be counted or not.
Okay. Well, we're just waiting on HUD to give us some guidance, and hopefully they will soon. I don't know who that was that grunted, but I'm not going to even entertain that. We're going to go ahead and get started. Today, we have joining us the Navigate Contract Administrator Coordinators. We have from Alabama, Vernell Callahan. Vernell, are you on yet? Not yet. She said she was signing on. We have from Connecticut, Tom Gurindo. Tom, could you wave at us so people will know who you are, even though your name is there? And from Mississippi, we have Nate Greattree. And from the Great Commonwealth, as he announces it, we have Tim Shear. Welcome, guys. Today, we're going to do follow-up on the things that we have been doing on the live Tuesday tips, like the MORs, the findings, and what to do once you get your report. The contract administrative coordinators are going to share with us what they find as being the, I won't call it a problem, but the greatest challenges in their areas and their particular state. So since we introduce them alphabetically, starting with Vernell, we will have them to answer in the reverse role. So Tim, could you tell us about Virginia, some of the challenges you think that the managers are having and how we can help, or what they could use as a resource to help them?
Sure. Hey guys, Tim Shear here, Great Commonwealth of Virginia. Welcome and thank you for joining us. I don't know if I would coin them challenges, but I would say a couple of the most common findings that we see here in the Great Commonwealth. The first would be the zero income certification for households that don't have any income. Most of you are using some kind of checklist or something to ask them, how are you paying for this? How are you paying for that? And a lot of times there is potential income that's reported by the residents on that form, but not followed up by the agents or the managers on the site. As most of us know, besides any kind of static income exclusion, pretty much food items are the only things that are excluded relative to gifts or helping out a household. So if someone puts on there that they're receiving, $30 in help for cleaning materials or things of that nature, that kind of reported income does need to be annualized, needs to be verified, with the person that's providing it as well as the household. But I'd say that is one of the larger ones. And then the second largest one is kind of boring, but it surrounds the EIV, income discrepancy reports, as well as the master file reports. Everyone's doing a great job of printing them and putting them in the file and so forth, but with any income discrepancy or any new hire report, any verification, pending verification or something that needs to be followed up on, you are required by statute to document either on the report or a second sheet, something to show that you actually reviewed it, you followed up on it, and whether or not it's fact or fiction. But I would say those are probably the two biggest, Vicki, from the Great Commonwealth.
Okay. Nate.
Good morning. Good morning.
Good
This
morning.
is Nate. I'm the CAC for the state of Mississippi. And I'm going to piggyback on what Tim said just a little bit. But a lot of what we see is EIV, EIV, EIV. And so in a lot of situations, what we're seeing is that turnover in the industry. So we're still seeing that there's a lot of new site managers that, still kind of afraid and just don't know a lot about EIV. So they're kind of scared to mess it all up. So for the most part, we are seeing the reports in the file. Sometimes they may be a little inconsistent, maybe a report missed here or there from time to time. But the reports are there. They're just not being documented, according to HUD guidelines or according to EIV policies and procedures. So when you pull those reports, those new hire reports, those new hire summary reports, those multiple substance reports, sometimes we're seeing that there's information on those reports, discrepancies, but they're just not being properly documented. So we try to do some education while we out there on property just to educate about those various reports. And for the most part, we're just, it's a lot of time it's just, inconsistencies. Sometimes forms are just not signed. They may not be dated. We're also seeing little small stuff like applications that may not have may not be time stamped. So just kind of those little inconsistencies that we're seeing on property for the most part. And I do kind of want to mention this, and I don't know, how the section is going to go, but we are seeing some situation with like the lease date, move-in date, and that's kind of whereas those things are not matching, but we're getting resident complaints about, and this kind of from a resident complaint area, we kind of address these things from a resident complaint area where we see residents are calling in saying, hey, at move in, my refrigerator wasn't working or my stove wasn't working. And so when we call management to kind of ask for a copy of those move-in inspection, we're not seeing those things documented on the move-in inspection. So just keep in mind that, on move-in, when you guys are going through those units with the resident, and if there's some stuff that, that's not kind of working properly, or there's some deficiencies that you guys notice during your move-in, just make sure that those things are documented on that move-in inspection report. So we're kind of seeing a lot of that from a resident complaint area.
Okay, Nate, thank you.
Hey, Vicki,
And we will have Connecticut. Tom.
can I
Some of the
can I
things-
say something? Vicki,
Yes,
Go
sir.
ahead.
we have a question
Okay.
from Julie Carpenter, and she says, how do we verify expenses from family for zero income?
Okay. Do one of you guys want to take that, or you want me to take it?
You can go ahead and take it, Vicki.
Oh, yeah, I figured you said. The only way you can verify expenses from the family is to get what we call a gift letter. The gift letter needs to be signed by the family member that's giving the gift, and you will count that as income. Some people or some managers require that gift letter be notarized, but the notary only says that they saw the person sign the affidavit, so it doesn't make it any more legal, or it doesn't make it any more authoritative or whatever. But as far as gifts, and that's what we call that, whomever the caller was or the texter was, we call those gifts. And all we can do is accept it and count it as income. I have some emails when it's my time to talk, and we'll talk about that a little further. Any other things, Ebony? You got your mic muted.
Not yet, but we are open for questions, so send them our way. Or
Yeah, y'all will just put your questions down and the guys will answer them. And right now, for those of you who joined us a little late, I introduced the 4 contract administrator coordinators from Alabama, Mississippi, Virginia, and Connecticut. And they're telling us about the issues that they may be having in their respective states. Or Tim, you said don't call them issues. I don't want to call them problems. So what's a good word for them?
Common discrepancies?
Okay. We'll talk about the discrepancies that they're having in their individual states. We're moving on to Connecticut. Tom, what are some of the deficiencies that you're noticing in Connecticut that are routine, that it seems to be everyone has an issue with, or most people have an issue with?
All right, thank you, Vicki. We are seeing some of the same things as Tim and Nate mentioned. I'm going to actually touch on a couple of those too. In addition, we're seeing some asset issues with residents who are receiving Social Security or SSI benefits. As most people know by now, there are direct express cards where they get their benefits direct deposited for 90-something% of the people receiving Social Security. They're not getting paper checks anymore. And we are not consistently seeing those direct express card balances being verified at move-in and AR. Those do need to be, they need to be asked about. And we sometimes see residents are reporting no assets on their move-in or AR questionnaires because they're not aware that they need to report a direct express debit card as an asset. So we've been recommending in Connecticut that the management companies and owners update their questionnaires to specifically ask or list that on their move-in and AR forms so that the residents will know they should check that box to say, yes, I've got a direct express card, and then management can follow up to get an ATM printout to show the current balance whenever they're processing the AR. And again, that's treated as an asset with no interest. But it does need to be reflected on the recertification. So a few of the larger companies in Connecticut have started putting that on their questionnaires. So I think that's a helpful thing to have your property managers have that on the questionnaire so they don't have to think of it every time on their own. The residents are actually going to be answering that question. A couple of other things related to what Tim and Nate were saying. Some of the properties, when they're pulling their EIV new hires reports and putting them in the master file, we see that they're just printing the summary report and not the detailed report. So they're actually not looking at the employer that's being reported and the date of hire. And they're just saying, well, in my file, I've got employment, so we're moving on, and that doesn't need to be dealt with. So just make sure you're printing the detailed reports and not just the summary report listing who has a new hire. You want to see who the employer is, when they started working there, and then document, as Tim was saying, whether or not that needs included, whether it's already been included in a certification, or why it doesn't, because we've seen a lot of people, especially in the past year with COVID, they've been bouncing from one home health aide job to another, or they've got 3 or 4 at the same time, and they may not have ever gotten hours at a couple of them. So obviously those aren't captured, but the other ones, they want to make sure that everything is verified from the employer. How often are they working? Did they ever start working? And then see if you've already got it captured on an AR, an IR, and if not, make sure you do add that into the household income. As far as the income discrepancy reports go, one thing that we're seeing is people are making them more complicated than they are, and they're already plenty complicated. So if you can give yourself a break, and when you're looking at the period of income that's being reviewed on the report, the period of income discrepancy, that 12-month period is before the person moved into your property, then you just need to note that on your discrepancy report and you're done. You don't need to compare income from before they moved in to income that's being reported on the current 5/9 because that's a waste of time. I'm not sure why HUD system pulls it that way, but they do. So just check the period of income discrepancies, and maybe you can save yourself a little bit of heartache, a little bit of time, and just note it was before they moved in, so there's nothing we need to follow up on. Let's see. I'm assuming the people that are on this call are the people that are on top of their stuff, so everybody's probably already got their income limits updated. But if not, get in touch with your software providers, double check your system, make sure they're current. Those were effective April 1st, I believe. I just want to make sure those are updated for everybody. We still see a few stragglers that haven't gotten those updated in Connecticut. I think that's about it for the highlights that we have. I was doing a meeting with the New England AMA earlier this month, and we were all just taking a moment to say thank you to the property management staff for everything you've done over the past year, 14 months. It's been crazy. It's impressive that you've done everything you've done for your residents, for yourselves, for your staff, to keep everybody as safe as possible, and also actually get your work done in there too. So thank you for doing that, and we appreciate the effort. Thank you.
That is great. That is great. And last but not least, we have Alabama and Vernell. Vernell, can you tell us about some of the challenges that are going on in Alabama?
In Alabama, a lot of the common issues are the same as those that have been mentioned. EIV discrepancies being resolved, notating the resolution, as Tom stated, on when it's prior to move in, documenting on that discrepancy report so that it reflects that you have reviewed that information and it is prior to move in, so the discrepancy has been resolved. Also, we do have the common finding for the Debit Express SSI benefits not being listed on the 5-9. So make sure that if they don't have a checking account, because believe it or not, some residents are still getting paper checks, but you just need to make sure that that's documented so the reviewer will know, hey, there's no checking savings account. They are getting a paper check. And sometimes the award letter will state that you're going to have the award letter at move-in. And it will state whether or not it's being directly deposited into an account or not. Sometimes it will offer them the opportunity to have it directly deposited, which is an indication that they are receiving a paper check. We are also seeing physical deficiencies. I know that we are not going into units because of COVID, but we are receiving a lot of resident complaints regarding the physical condition of the units. So I know a lot of management companies have started back doing annual inspections. If you have not started doing annual inspections, create a way for your residents to notify you that they have deficiencies in their units, because if they're not notifying you all, they are notifying us. We've seen a significant increase in the number of resident complaints that are directly related to the physical condition of these units. So we want to make sure that the families are living in decent, safe, and units that are in good repair. So newsletter, just reminding them if they have work orders, how to call those work orders in. That will be helpful. Just some kind of way to get those residents to know that you're there, you're available for them. They don't always have to go directly to the HUD office or our office. Remind them of the procedure that you have in place for taking those work orders and those, so that your maintenance department can get those taken care of. Tom mentioned the income limits. Make sure that your software provider has updated your income limits. And also, if you all are doing a newsletter, we are approaching hurricane season. So make sure that you are letting your residents know resources that are available, shelters. In Alabama, we have a lot of tornadoes here. So we're encouraging our owner agents to notify residents of storm shelters that are in their area. because it goes beyond the files. You know, we still have to make sure that the residents have the information that they need, the resources that they need. So if you're doing a newsletter, email blast, please include that information, guiding them where to go in the event of a storm. EIV, EIV, EIV. I think you all have heard a lot about EIV, and that's the hot topic right now. And as Tom stated, I also want to thank all of our owner agents for the work that you are doing during these times. We really appreciate you all. And please understand that we know that you all have a million things going on. But when our office gets a complaint from the HUD office, we have to address that complaint. And I know we have been calling a lot of you all, but keep in mind that we respect your time. This is just a procedure. HUD notifies us. We have to notify you all in an effort to resolve that residence issue. But we do respect your time. We know that you are busy. We understand you have a million things to do. But hey, it is what it is. So you all are going to be getting those calls from us. And I'm going to apologize in advance because we have been blowing phones up, okay? But again, we really appreciate everything that you all do. Alabama is, of course, the best state. So we don't have a whole lot of findings going on when we do our reviews. But I think you all have covered on the gist of it. The EIV is a hot topic.
Okay, thank you, Vernell. And thank all of you guys. And I just want to say to piggyback on the Direct Express, I had the opportunity to go in the field last month, and I've done 2 MORs. I haven't done MORs in about 2 years, 2.5. And to my amazement, it was an elderly property. Everybody's receiving Social Security, but all of the 5/9s, all of the handwritten 5/9s at that, not electronic copies of the 5/9s, all of the handwritten 5/9s had no assets at all. And there are no EIV reports. So the things that the guys mentioned are really important. We need you to stay on top of those. The property that I went on, they're going to have to lose their voucher, 5% of their voucher, because there's just nothing being done with the EIV, no reports pulled or anything. As far as the annual inspections, like Vernell mentioned, we still have to keep the property up. And there's nothing I hate worse than a slumlord, right? And we are not in this industry slumlords, so we want to keep our properties up. Now, HUD did not do a suspension on annual inspections. I don't know why they did not, but you can't find anything in writing saying that annual inspections have been suspended due to COVID. But as Vernell said, you can have a workaround. You can work around by just telling your residents, if you have issues, if you have deficiencies, if you have things that need to be fixed and or resolved, let us know. You all are basically in the offices. I've gone to a lot of offices that are closed to the public or closed to the residents, but you are in there. So find a workaround so that you can continue to keep your property up. As you guys know, we mentioned on a previous Tuesday tip, REACT is going back out. They're starting. Has anybody already got a letter from them or notification from them? Well, they're starting back. So you don't want to wait till the last minute to get ready for them, because they're only giving you 14 days now. And the way it was in the past, it would take us sometimes 2 months to get ready for a 30-day advance notice from REACT. So make sure you stay on top of that. The issue that I have run into this last 2 weeks has been appeals. You know, our last Tuesday Tip Live, we talked about your rating. And there's an above average, there's a satisfactory, there's a below average, and there's an unsat. And of course, there's number one, a what? A superior. A lot of managers wait the last minute to decide that they they want to appeal, or that they want to get ready. What I want to say to you is that you can appeal your score to us. But if we don't change the appeal, your next step is to appeal it to HUD. And we take appeals very seriously. We look at what the RM went out to do. We talk to the 4 CACs we have here, and we talk to our deputy director. So we do take them seriously. I don't want you to think that, oh, well, there's no need of appealing to navigate because they're not going to do anything about it. That's not true. We take them seriously. But if you're not satisfied with our decision, you always can and have the opportunity to appeal a rating to HUD. Now, it's question time. Do you guys have any questions about anything? Ebony, do we have anything in?
Not right now, but Vernell says that she has a few more things that she'd like to talk about.
Well, great, Vernell.
Hey, I'll be brief. Existing tenant search. Make sure that the existing tenant search is ran on all household members, not just the head, co-head, not just the head and the spouse, all household members. And also make sure that your head of household is allowed to identify the household members and their relationship to the head. We have run into situations where there's a head of household and there's a other adult member that is not head or co-head, and that individual is disabled. They are considered a dependent. So if they are identified as not head or co-head and they're other, make sure you are classifying them as a dependent if they are disabled. And it's important to let the head of household determine the relationship of each household member to the head, not the manager. Don't let them do it. Let the household member do it. That's all I have.
Okay. Well, along those lines, I also got an email, Vernell and I did, about a manager that was not happy with another contract administrator as far as the EID users. And you can run and find out who's listed as a user on your property. Make sure if you're taking over a new property that the old users have been suspended, that they've been taken away. If not, it will be approved. Is that somebody who has their mic on?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Oh, okay. That was you, Ebony. Anything else? Anything the CACs that might have forgot to talk about? I know that in all states, we don't have active, I see you, Sonia. In all states, we don't have active HUD offices, but the Connecticut office is pretty active. Sonia.
Jennifer Scott just called in, so I wanted her to answer that question that you had asked us earlier about how SPM's handling any of the loans, or if residents have businesses in their homes, how we're counting that. Okay. Jennifer, are you there?
Hi, Jennifer. Is she on your phone?
She should be called in. She's not doing the video, but she's called in. Are you muted, Jen?
When she contacts you, Sonia, just let us know.
Okay.
All right. She might have difficulty. She might be driving. And sometimes when you're driving and on these Zoom calls, you do lose a lot. We've got several people on. There's no one else with questions, no one else with comments. Boy, I thought live was going to be better than me just talking all the time, but you guys.
Jennifer said she's talking, but no one's hearing her.
Oh.
Is her last name Davis by chance?
Should be Jennifer Scott.
Okay, let me see if I can find her on the list. I might have to unmute her. Can you type in her,
We do have another comment.
She's in the comment.
Oh. Okay. Chris, would you like to read it?
Sure, it's from
Oh,
Tony.
everybody, hold on one second. Chris is our new marketing specialist. So everybody welcome Chris.
Hello, everybody. This question is, or comment is from Tony. It says, we were told that there would be a temporary 28 notice for the REAC.
Okay. We were told that too. We were told that. It seems that the multifamily side and the public housing side have different instructions. So keep that in mind. The new Inspire that's supposed to go into effect is for one group, and they will be doing the public housing. The multifamily housing is still under the old until Spire actually clears. Did you all get that email? Nobody got that email about the difference in the two?
Well, Susie says that they received the notice of their REAC inspection and they were given 28 days notice.
Okay, and so she's on the multifamily, right? Is Susie multifamily?
Susie, are you multifamily? She says yes.
Yes.
Okay, multifamily is still under the old REAC umbrella, and the Spire umbrella is still being tested with the public housing departments. And if I can find that email that I received, I'll put it out there, or Ebony can put it out there and you all can read it.
I'm going to try to get Jen on the line now. Jen, are you there? Caller, are you there?
I talked you up today, Jennifer. You have to talk. No? Okay.
I think she can't, she said she can't get back in, but she'll get with us this afternoon. So maybe we can just do a follow-up on those answers next time.
Okay, that would be great.
Okay.
So she's driving probably.
Yes, I think so.
Okay. Okay, I have one, and we answered this in one of our previous Tuesday tips. They want to know if the MORs can be canceled or moved back because they're doing a lot. Let me read it as it is. I'd like to know if it's possible to have MORs pushed back. Because of COVID, we have not been able to process all of our ARs the way we should have, and we're not under the Navigate umbrella, but will contract administrators push the MORs back if you ask them? Okay. Now, my answer is that we can't move it out of the same month in Alabama or Navigate under our umbrella. We don't move them out of the same month without HUD approval, but we can push it back within that month if there's an availability. I'm going to let the CACs in the different states talk about what they do. Tim, what about you in Virginia?
We work under a 3-month quarterly work plan, and we have the flexibility to move those reviews within the 3-month quarter work plan, but we can't move them outside of that. So if they're scheduled for April and it's April, May, and June, we can move it to May or June if it's more comfortable for them. It's easier, but we have to keep it within that 90-day work plan from HUD, or we would need to get HQ approval. Correct.
Okay. So Tim spoke for everybody. That's the way Navigate does it. Any other questions?
Hey, Vicky, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, actually in Mississippi, we've been doing it a little different based on our account executive with HUD. We do work on that quarterly work plan. But if it's COVID related, we can push it. We can push it to the next month or two if it's COVID related. But if it's anything other than COVID related, we push it to our to our account executive with HUD, and they actually make that call.
Okay.
We've been doing a similar thing in Connecticut. Again, HUD headquarters approves our MORs on a quarterly basis, like everyone. And then we work with we've got a couple of local offices here in the Northeast with Hartford and Boston involved in our Connecticut properties. So if there are COVID-related concerns, and there have been over the past year, we have brought that information from the owner agent to our HUD offices and the appropriate account executive plus their supervisor. And if they give us the okay to move it outside of that 90-day work plan, then we've done that. We've done that with a few, push them later into, back in 2020, later in the year, some of them even into this year. At this point, I think just about everything is getting scheduled in accordance with our work plan, and maybe a couple of properties still facing some challenges, some significant challenges. But yeah, our HUD offices up in this area have supported us and the owner's agents with moving things around as we need to. But generally, as Vicki was saying, we keep them within the month that we get them approved by HUD headquarters. And then moving them outside of that, we would talk to the HUD office too.
Hey, Vicki, one of our questions of the week that we send out with our Tuesday tip email recently was, when would your property be ready for an MOR? And close to 30% of the people who responded said yes. About 22% said in the next 30 days. Then it drops to between about 12 and 15% for the next 90 days, 6 months, and next year. But the majority said that they would be ready now.
Well, that's great. For the most part, since we started, let's see, Tom, Tim, I think we started in 2008,
2004 in Connecticut and Virginia.
2004, we got Connecticut and Virginia. Okay, so then I must have started with them in 2002 before we got Connecticut and Virginia. What I was going to say is that we have the best managers and management companies. And one of the things that they do realize is that they can reach out to navigate. And some of them really do. Some of them, I know Vernell and I get emails, and Tom, and I'm sure Nate too. And it's almost like, y'all manage this property. What do I do about this and that and the other? And we're glad to help. And if you, the two properties that I was telling you that I had done, I can tell that they need help. And I talked to Lisa, who's the top of our food chain. And she says, well, Vicki Bell, you need to get out there and you need to try to help them. If you're in trouble, if you have issues or problems, we try to be there for you. And I can say that for all 4 states. We have even had requests from other states that we're not the contract administrators for. We don't mind helping you, but the only thing is that we can't do anything about your contract administrator. So you have to follow the rules or the guidelines that they put down. But we'll still come and help you train or do whatever we can, because we're all in this together. Housing is important to all of us. And as I've told people in the different summer classes and things, if you don't have housing here on the inside of you, you won't make a good manager. If you don't have the desire to help people, you won't make a good manager. You'll take a space, you'll sit in a chair, but you won't make a good manager. And as far as physical is concerned, it is so hard to manage a property sitting in a chair. If you try sitting in the chair and not walking your property, getting to know your residents, let me tell you, somebody is going to take that property from you. Any other questions? Any comments? Anybody doing anything new that would help the rest of us? And there was silence, as Lisa would say.
Vicki,
There was silence.
Thea,
Yes.
Well, I have a question. I don't know if it's a question or a statement. The residents who receive SSI or Social Security and actually get a paper check. I was on the phone with someone at Social Security. We have always been told in the meetings, you remember when we first started, we could actually make a copy of that Social Security or SSI check. But we've been told in the meetings over years that it is illegal to make a copy of the check. I was chatting with someone, a representative at Social Security, and I just casually asked them, was it illegal? And they told me it's not illegal to make a copy of the check because there are no identifiable information that could be used against the resident. Now, I want to know, is it actually illegal, or is this a HUD rule?
Well, you've been in the business how long?
30-some years.
Yeah, and I've been there. I'm gonna say about the same time. If I say more, then they'll tell my age. But some things are common practice.
Mm-hmm.
And some things that have been an industry habit and practice, we did because we felt it was right.
Mm-hmm.
I have not read anything that says copying a government check is illegal, but I have been told that also.
Mm-hmm.
The thing is, though, that you can have a statement in there without a copy of the check. You're right, there are no personal identifiers on the check at all. No one, like on your regular check, your checkbook has an account number and a routing number. None of that's on the Social Security check. Now, when it first started and they were using direct debit, I'll have to go pull that email. They had said that the people who will be receiving, they asked, Social Security sent a letter and asked, do you want to continue to receive a paper check, or do you want your check deposited into an account? That was the question. And a lot of people said continue to receive, and some people said the accounts. Well, Social Security took it up on themselves to say, hey, it's just going too many ways. We're going to make direct deposits into accounts. Social Security came up with the Direct Express debit card as a means of putting those funds in that account. To my knowledge, the people who are receiving paper checks were grandfathered in. I don't believe, and I've helped about 3 elderly people recently to get their Social Security. I don't believe they're sending out checks now, today. If I went down to the Social Security office to apply, they're going to ask me for an account number. That's the way they did those people. But we do still have people who are receiving, as Vernell said, paper checks because they were grandfathered in. And if that is the case, we need a statement from them saying that I do receive a Social Security paper check.
Okay, do we need to, because I do put in the files that I get the tenant to be sure to bring the check in before they cash it, to actually put my eyes on the check. Okay. Is that okay? And then I put a statement in the file saying that I have actually seen this check, signed it and dated, and then get the resident to also. And then, I try to, like you say, when a resident receives a paper check, there's not going to be an access, unless they got an account otherwise. But, we asked them, it's not going to be an access of anything. So that's okay. And I just put a little sticker because you won't know that this person get a paper check. You might just say, well, they didn't have any access. So I just put a little sticker saying that this person receives a paper check.
I think that is great. I don't know what everybody else thinks, but I think that it's great that you acknowledge it and they acknowledge it. As reviewers, we're coming out to make sure that you're in compliance. Mm-hmm. Compliance is that if they have income coming in through Social Security or whatever have you, there should be a method to put these funds into some type of account. Or they are, as you say, a paper check. So if you acknowledge that as manager that you have seen the check, then that's all we should need. Does anyone object or have something different? Vernell, do you have something different? Okay. And it's the same way with the direct express card. We go in and managers say, well, by the time they come to us for recertification, there's a zero balance. That's all well and good. And we know that your software doesn't take a zero number or a negative number in order for you to put it on the 5-9. But we want something similar to what you're doing. We want some type of acknowledgement in the file that shows that you know that they have a debit card and that the balance is zero. Now, they can get a balance statement. You just can't put it on the 5-9 because for some reason the software vendors didn't put zero as an answer.
But Vicki, the software that we have, we finally figured it out. When we get ready to do it, it comes up that your value cannot be. So what we use 0.01 when they have a zero balance, and it actually put zero access on the 5-9.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's helpful to everybody to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. And what software do you use?
We have one site, Real Page. Mm-hmm.
All right, Sonia, do y'all have that with Yardi? Okay, so you can't put a 0.01 and it'll show a zero asset?
And it will show up as a zero access.
Oh, Vernell, can y'all do that at St. Charles? Or have you tried?
Vicki, I don't think we run into a zero balance.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. Well, I know that that's sometimes what the managers will say. The reason they don't have it down, but we see on the 5-9 that the income is through the Social Security Administration. I have one other one.
Vicki, just real quick.
Sure.
Tony says that they use Yardi and they can put in a zero balance.
Great. So now we should have no more excuses for that debit card not showing up as an asset. And
Vicki, let me say this.
guys, so that you will know, Navigate is audited also. Just like we come out to do your MORs, we have what's called an ACR. That's the equivalent to us having an MOR from HUD. And they come out, they look at our files, they look at previous MORs and things that we've done. And we had as many of you know, HUD has newer staff. I won't say they're all new now, but they have newer staff. So about 4 years ago, they had a person that had transferred from another division in HUD to the multifamily asset part. The gentleman came out to do our ACR, and he immediately said that we didn't do what we were supposed to do because the 5-9 showed Social Security income and the 5-9 did not show an asset at all. And that's when we started cracking down on, we've got to verify that there is an asset so that we won't get fined. When we come out and we do your MORs, we write them up and we give you a finding, and all you have to do is respond to them. But there is no monetary finding there. Sometimes, according to what an ACR finding is, there might be a monetary finding. We have a new RM in Virginia, and she had an interesting question yesterday. She went out with Tim, and I asked her, what did she think about being out in the field? She said, well, her previous job was a compliance officer. And you know, as regionals and compliance officers and managers, we have those pet peeves, don't we? We all have our pet peeves. And her pet peeve was an organized file. So Tim took her to a property, she said, that was just lovely. She could live there herself. But some file that she did wasn't as lovely. And she said the same thing that I tell you in Tuesday tips. HUD doesn't give us a way to organize a file, but it says that the file has to be auditable. And she said that she wanted to tell them, if you had everything together, I wouldn't have to dig through here and see stuff that I wouldn't normally see, because if you see it, you need to write it. And so I just want to tell you about file maintenance. When we first got Connecticut, and HUD goes out on property behind us too. I don't know how many of you have had them visit you, and they ask you to let them see the files that Navigate conducted or that Navigate viewed during their MOR. And we had a property, I forgot where it was, Tom. It was up by the train station that goes to New York, all I can remember, big property. And when we all got there, it was about 5 of us doing files. When we got there, the files were just, I mean, we were digging for information. We have a 5.9 here. The supporting documentation to the 5.9 might be way down at the bottom of the file or another plat. They were just horrible. HUD went out. And do you remember, Tom? They went out, they did an MOR. They came back and they asked us, why didn't you tell them to organize their files? We don't have a reference for organizing files other than we use now. It has to be auditable. So look at your files and organize them. Tom, were you going to say something?
No, I was just saying, yeah, that property, it no longer exists.
I wonder why.
Yeah, the residents were moved out of that property.
Yeah, but it was tough. So, you know, sometimes it's the least little things that will help you through an MOR. Any other questions?
I think Nate had a comment.
Okay, Nate.
Oh yeah, it was just about the zero access showing up on the 5.9. You know, when we had summer, you know, there was the HUD representative that actually mentioned that if it's an asset, it must be on the 5.9. So as I started to go back out and do MORs, I just started asking regional, how did they deal with that? And what I found out was that in certain cases, it was just, you know, the property site person that didn't actually know how to do the workaround. So they were actually trying to put 0 in there. It won't take the 0, but it will take the 0.01 or 0.011. And so that's what I found out is that was the issue. So people were just trying to actually put the 0 in there. So it won't actually take the 0 itself. And
Well,
this
that's something evident that we can put out there in our little Tuesday tip column, that if you missed today's Tuesday tip, we have a workaround for you in terms of your asset being on your 50059. Anybody else?
Hey, Vicki, one follow-up on the Social Security check question.
Yes.
In the 4350.3 in Appendix 3, which is the verification appendix under income, the right column about verification tips does say copying of U.S. Treasury checks is not permitted. So I don't know whether or not that's a law, but it does give that guidance in the handbook. So I think, like you were saying earlier, that putting a note in the file that you saw the check is probably as good as you're going to get.
Okay. May I ask a question? How old is your resident that receives a paper check?
They're not that old. One is a young guy who receives, his mother's deceased, and she was not old, and he still gets a paper check.
Okay.
You know, I don't know how long she was disabled, but still, we have maybe 3 or 4 residents who still gets a paper check.
Okay. I would think that they were one of the ones that elected to receive a paper check. I'm going to follow up on that. As soon as COVID goes, we had scheduled to have someone from the Social Security Administration office to do an interview for Tuesday Tips. I belong to the little service coordinator association here in Alabama, and they had this gentleman out from Social Security. So I followed up to ask him if he would do a tip for us, and he said he would, but then we ran into COVID. So that's something that we could do and get some more information from Social Security. I do want to mention the fact that when a young person receives Social Security, let's say a 30-year-old receives Social Security, they do have a disability. We notice that the $400 disability allowance is not given to a 30-year-old who's receiving Social Security. As head of household, most of the times what happens is that some children receive Social Security as a draw off of their children. I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about when the person actually draws off of their own Social Security number. I'm going to use my son as an example. My son receives Social Security, and he's over 30. I'm on this age thing, y'all. I'm dyeing my hair. I'm worried about this age thing. But he's over 30, and he is disabled. So most of the time when you get Social Security, you, as an adult, you have some type of disability. It's hard to get Social Security and not. Now, you can be coded differently, and I have those different codes that the man gave me that we can talk about in a future one. You can be coded differently and be a dependent and receive Social Security benefits, but that's not what I'm talking about. Otherwise, you usually receive for disability SSI. And Social Security definition of disability, HUD accepts. But VA's definition of disability, HUD does not accept. So if you have a person that's a veteran and they're disabled, then you need to have a verification of that disability in your file by the doctor or whomever, quote unquote, you sent that third party verification to. But the handbook says that HUD accepts Social Security's definition of disability under SSI. And that's why in EIV tells you not to necessarily use that document as proof of disability, because it just depends. Any comments on that? No? Well, we've reached our time. We try not to keep you too long because we know you have properties to run. We appreciate you being here. We thank you, and we look forward to seeing you again if there are no more questions on another Tuesday Tip. I'd like to thank our special guests, Tim and Nate and Vernell and Tom, for joining us. And in the near future, we're going to have the RMs to come to you because they're the ones that come out and actually do your files. So we're going to have them on in the near future, and they'll share some of their experiences with us also. Thank you guys again, and have a great one.
Thank you, Vicky Bell.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ebony.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.